you don't love it, if you are not like, oh my gosh, this is really what I want to be doing, you really shouldn't, because unfortunately you're going to compete with someone who is willing to do that. Effort beats talent every single day. I love startups.
Yeah.
What we do, I don't have to love, but I love the journey. I love the problem solving. I love the implementation of SOPs, all the stuff. Do it anyway and watch where you go, because most people won't. So it's actually not so hard to elevate to that top tier in your space, because the average aren't going to do these things. If you're apprehensive and not a good decision maker, then guess what? It's okay to be the founder of a company and not be the CEO. Probably should have a coach of some capacity who's either coaching your mental approach or your specific niche. I want to live in a world where everybody is winning, because if everybody had more disposable income, they would do more good for the world. If everybody was making more money, they would create more products and businesses that you like, wouldn't go out of business, and it would just be a better environment.
I want to respect your time. So Jeff, thank you so much for being here today. I have to start by saying that I've been following you on LinkedIn for so many years, and my family, we're a huge fan of Everbowl. I frequented the Everbowl in Santee, and my daughter frequented the Everbowl in Santee. So that's where I first found your brand. And I just have to say, for everyone who's listening, just an amazing person, always just so kind. Early on in your career, you accepted my invite on LinkedIn, and I remember thinking, this something great's going to happen with him. And I've been following you all these years. So I just wanted to start by that. That's why I was so intrigued to meet with you. And I did research, because I see you as Everbowl, but there's so much more to your story than just Everbowl. I'll just dibble dabble law school, having a payroll company, a recruiting company, digital marketing, then into Everbowl, then Unevolved Products and WeBuild. And as an intrapreneur, I consider myself an intrapreneur. So I love to work with people like you to help, bring their dreams to life. I would just love to know right out the gate, when you were all these different stepping stones, how do you feel that sort of created the roadmap for you to be so successful? I mean, you've been successful throughout your career, but I think about these little stepping stones and I'm like, was this purposeful, or was it truly just, this was my journey and this is how it happened?
Well, I think it's all of our journey, because you don't know that you can't see the next step till you take it. And then you can look back and go, oh, I see how those dots got connected. I think success is very repeatable. And when I say that, it doesn't mean you can predict with certainty the outcome, but you can ensure that you will have a better than most or a more enhanced experience in anything you do if you can figure out what that repeatable formula is. And so, in business and entrepreneurship, a lot of people fail to realize the foundation of a successful business in any industry. And yes, I've jumped across multiple niches and multiple industries because that's what I enjoy. And I don't need that domain expertise. I don't need to be a chef to be in the restaurant space. I don't need to know how to do construction to be in construction. I don't need to be a true technical digital marketer to have a digital marketing agency, because you can hire and attract talent that can do those things. But the business side, the scale side, how you build a successful business that can grow and attract customers, attract clients, increase revenues, make profit, provide good service, provide good products, supply chain, accounting, marketing, and all those elements, that's repeatable for me. So I really spent a lot of my career understanding how I can do that again and again and again, and what makes a successful business, regardless of industry. Now, we're too focused as consumers on what is the widget, what is the product or service we're selling or creating or doing, whether it's an iPhone, a bottle of water, an Everbowl, or a window, blinds. That doesn't really matter. In the industry, whether I'm selling blinds, iPhones, watches, or I'm a HVAC service provider for your home, can I attract the consumer who needs my product? Can I educate the consumer who may be a good fit for my product? Do I understand how to make my product or service profitable? Can I attract customers? Can I create good marketing collateral? And then once I've done that, can I utilize those dollars in a way to amplify my business with strategic investments, proper growth, just-in-time expansion, retraction when necessary? And then most importantly, and why I think this game is so hard, is can you step out of your business while you're in your business and look at the macro climate? Can you predict or see the future, which is very difficult, but there are ways we smaller entrepreneurs that don't have the resources of an Apple or Facebook, we can do it. And so
Yeah.
Not sure if that was
No, it's a
exactly.
perfect, it's exactly what I was looking for. I love that because it breaks the laws that people set around business. They say, I mean, I even found myself when I was on the brand side wanting to work with people who understood fashion. And in some pieces of the business, it makes sense. But now that I've grown in my career for 20 plus years and I've worked across every aspect, everything's so transferable and people underestimate the transferable skills. And when I look at your experience around just even starting in law, and we know how much employee laws, if you're successful in a business, there is a legal moment in your life. It just never fails. And just having that foundation and then the foundation of people recruiting. I mean, it definitely feels like you just sort of went, it worked out, but it's like, I look at this and I'm like, wow, it's very clear for me why you're successful. And so I wanted to start there because I really want viewers to understand that there are these integral pieces and it's by design in the end, but very similar. I think I'm very similar in the sense that I am about solving problems. And if I have to become an expert in an area that I didn't anticipate to solve that problem, I will. And then I move on to the next problem for entrepreneurs. That's what I love to do, is be a problem solver for entrepreneurs. So that's amazing. Well,
and if I can add on that really quick,
sure.
because let me give your audience a law degree here in about 1 minute. All the benefits for business that you get in law school. So I went to law school to be a sports agent, and I can't remember all of the contract law or employment law or any of the law specific to entrepreneurship. But what they teach you in law school, the number one greatest asset I received getting my JD was simply this. When you take a law school exam, the professor gives you a set of facts, a circumstance. So think about it like in your business. Okay, this thing happened. And they make you argue the side that they make you argue, which is not usually the side that you're mentally going to agree with. So you have to put yourself in the opposition's shoes, and make the best compelling argument under the confines of the facts in front of you. And why that is so powerful is when I'm in a negotiation with a vendor, supplier, or employee, or I'm trying to figure out how to navigate a legal matter, or I'm trying to think about a marketing collateral and I'm getting people giving me pushback for whatever with my brand, my product, my service, I am trained in how to step into their shoes, see the world through their eyes with my bias aside, and make their best argument. And if I can do that, well, then ahead of time, I can now know where they're going or where I believe they're going to go and be ready for it and have good answers, solutions, and pivots. And so it makes me more dynamic as a negotiator and in those circumstances. And so as entrepreneurs, I encourage everybody to really work on their ability to have analytical approach to issues and challenges, and argue the other side first to yourself. Why is that employee saying this? Why is that vendor dropping you? Why is this thing not working? Why? And not, well, they don't understand. They don't blah, blah, blah. We point. That's why we fail. And so when you can put yourself in that side, and that was the greatest benefit, I would say, of my law degree and my law experience that has translated into entrepreneurship, and it's been invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I love that. I love that the concept of putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It's sort of that anticipating how they're coming from, what they're coming from. How do I solve this? And being more of a problem solver versus they just don't get it type of solution. But that's huge. I mean, I think that's a big differentiator. And you mentioned Jerry Maguire, and I was just thinking about it. There are parts of your personality, honestly, just not knowing you personally, but watching you from afar. I don't know if this is if this is, this is what I see. Is, one of the things he says is the cause is caring about each other. The secret to this job is personal relationships. And there's so much about how I see you move. And people are watching you when you don't know they're watching you. And I was one of them. And I remember these pivotal moments thinking, he's a grinder. He's a hustler. He's always on. I'd go, being an entrepreneur, I was always watching other entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur, working for founders. And so to me, like, I love that part of your personality, that you're actually a real person outside of the fact that you're very well accomplished. And one of the things I want, people to learn from this is not just the shiny, sexy side of being an entrepreneur, because I think that's glamorized. And I think if you look at Instagram, you're going to see only the positive. No one goes on Instagram when they're not feeling their best. I mean, very rarely. It's happening more. I'd love to know from you sort of what are the biggest failure? Like, if there's one, let's just pick one failure that has been this moment of darkness for you in your career, but has turned out to be the biggest breakthrough for you in your career.
Well, you say just one, and I
I
could
know
write a
you have
book.
more.
Maybe there have, I fail more than I succeed. I guess that's the part, to your point, that you don't see
Mhm.
on Instagram and the world. And
Mhm.
that's the part I think more entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs or just people in general who are
Right.
struggling and having anxiety or frustration or resistance to the fact that they're just not seeing the progress because they feel like they're just getting kicked in the face every single day and they're just losing where they believe everyone else is just always winning. The thing
Yes.
is, the winning should be what if I fall down 100 times and I get up 101, and that 101 I create something that Everbowl that makes me super proud as a entrepreneur and a business individual and whatever I am. Well, does the other 100 matter now? Of course not,
Mhm.
right? So it's like making something at home, like a recipe. I could make a grilled cheese and burn it. I could make a grilled cheese and it tastes terrible. I can make another grilled cheese and it'd be great. Then I hand that to my family and they're like, "Oh, this grilled cheese is great. You're a great creator of grilled cheese," but they don't realize I burned 3 of them
Yeah.
and screwed up twice because those are irrelevant. That's the
Right.
process. That's the learning. That's when the little baby, if you've ever have kids, is learning to walk and they take one step and fall and they take one step and
Yeah.
fall and then they take 2 steps and fall. And then eventually they don't fall anymore. And look at, we all walk. Does that mean we were failures because it took us 3 months to learn how to walk?
Right.
No.
It's true.
And all those times we fell down, does that mean we're bad walkers? No, we're great walkers now because that's the process. Learning to ride a bike, that's the process. Learning a
Mhm.
sport, that's the process. Learning to write, that's the process. Learning to read. We forget what it's like to learn when we're kids as adults. We remove that experience from our psyche and go, I couldn't do this in 1 week. I mean, geez, I must suck at this. No, we all
Mhm.
suck at everything until we don't. And
Yes.
the commitment you put to it. And if adults had to learn to walk, none of us would be walking, right?
It's
Because we would
true.
quit long before walking is impossible. It's not for me. It's for somebody else. And that's the
Mhm.
misnomer there. So to highlight one failure would be a challenge, but I can highlight one that changed my leadership style as a founder CEO. I was 25 and I had a payroll and HR company called Canopy HR. It was iChecks. We ended up raising private equity and changing the business and changing the name to Canopy HR. And being young and having a huge ego and having a lot of insecurity, I didn't feel like everybody respected me in the company because we had this
Mhm.
business that was in a traditionally older demographic of employees, right? The HR department is not usually for 20-year-olds. So you have a lot of middle-aged men and women working for us that are been in the industry for longer than I've been an adult. And
Mhm.
I felt like I had to continue to prove to them why I was their leader versus just being a leader. And I didn't realize that leadership doesn't require permission to do. You just do it, right? And leadership is an attribute. And so what I was
Mhm.
doing was stepping on their toes and putting my own spin on their ideas and making sure that I
Mhm.
came up with everything great. And I get the credit because look, Jeff, I'm the CEO. I'm in charge. So it can't be
Right.
your win. It's got to be my win. And I kept losing great, talented people, and I kept blaming them with that finger pointed at them. And that old saying, if you point your finger at somebody, there's 3 pointing back at you.
Mhm.
Well, after I'd done that for, I don't know, 6, 7 months and had lost 2 or 3 really good people, and I was venting and venting and venting and crying to myself about, how bad employees are in today's world and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I had a mirror moment and I realized, well, what's the common denominator here? It's me. So what if I'm the problem? And then you start to think about it and you go, okay, how can I do this differently? How can I be a different version of myself? Because this way is not working. So you pivot and you try to think about something else. And so I went from trying to be the smartest guy in the room to now I was like, well, what if I'm the dumbest guy in the room? What if I give them credit? What if I enable them to do it? What would change? They're leaving anyway, so let's try it. And through some guidance from some mentors and kind of just doing some, back then we didn't have YouTube readily available on
I know.
Instagram.
You could learn. Yeah.
But I remember trying to Google and learn more about how to attract and retain talent and be a better leader. And I was focusing more energy there. And through a combination of that, I came to the conclusion that I'll just be the dumbest guy in the room and give credit where credit's due. And I'll take blame if it doesn't work out. And overnight, I was able to attract talent that stayed, felt empowered to be part of the company, injected their DNA into the organization. And it went from, well, this is what you guys do to this is what we do. And it became a team.
Right.
And my company went from, low 7 figures to 8 figures in revenue very quickly. And success was on the other side of that. And so we were able to sell that first company. I was able to sell it on the back end of that. So to me, that's the most quantifiable moment of a failure that turned into a success from the lesson that I learned. And it takes a lot of personal humility to realize that you are the problem and take 100% extreme ownership and accountability. And that is the job of a leader, regardless if you're a CEO or you're a director or you're just the lowest person on the totem pole at your company today and you're working for somebody. Like, you don't have to be a founder to do that. As a parent, as a friend, as a kid, extreme ownership is freeing, because once you take, you are responsible for 100% of the things that happen to you. You just are. And you could say, well, I wasn't responsible for getting rear-ended at that traffic light. You didn't have to be at that traffic light, and you controlled the fact that you were there. Now, the outcome wasn't because of you, but you put yourself in a situation that happened, and that's life, right? There's randomness to it, but you made the choices today. Nobody else did. So as a result of that, when you take on that ownership and you're prepared with that, and you're like, okay, everything's my fault, and I'm the good or the bad of everything that happens, then it's a lot more freeing, because you get out of that victim mindset and you can really focus on, how do I get better? How do I not let this happen again? Maybe I should look in my rearview mirror when cars are approaching at high speeds and be ready. I'm not saying you need to. I'm just saying, like, this is
for sure
doing if you want to navigate the rapids of life and come out the other end successful, because the average is the average for a reason. Most people aren't going to do these things. So you've got to be, if you want what the top percentage of successful people and whatever it is that you're after, health, wellness, relationships, business, love, etc., you got to be willing to do those things that the successful individuals and companies are doing in that space. And this is one of those things they're doing. They are taking extreme ownership. They don't play the victim. They don't let the macro environments of COVID and inflation and supply chain hell and political divide and recessions and currency debasements or whatever they are.
Right.
So this is why. Yes, it is why. And it could kill you. And Blockbuster could have been Netflix, and they're not. Right. Sears could have been Amazon, but they're not. Circuit City's gone. There's a legacy of these examples where the leadership didn't figure it out. And that's what we have to be doing. You said it best at the beginning. Entrepreneurship summed up into, what is an entrepreneur? Problem solver. What is an entrepreneur? Problem solver. What is a successful employee? Problem solver.
Yeah. I love that because I think the introspective part, I work with so many founders, and I think there is a tendency to blame everything that's, all the things around you versus really, what can I control? And I have a daughter who's 18. So, raising a daughter, she plays sports. And I always told her, you're not allowed to quit until you have your best game. When you have your very best game, then you can decide if you want to quit. Don't quit when you're failing. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to quit when things are hard. And I'm like, that's the worst time to quit. You've got to keep going, because there's definitely opportunity here for you. But I love that you recognize the importance of leadership so early in your career, because a lot of founders and entrepreneurs do not. And I reached them into 17 years in their business. And it's very clear, the track record of just, they haven't been able to retain or attract the right talent. And that's a deal. It changes the game, right? You don't have to be the smartest person in the room if you can attract smart people into your business. And so I think that you mastered that. What is it? I'm going to go off script here.
Sure.
What was your life like? Because you are, like, as a person going to law school, obviously you had high aspirations for yourself, but with the foundational pieces of growing up there for you, like, what does that look like for you? What did that look like for you?
Before law school, you mean?
Yeah, before, like, what got you to law school? I mean, everyone has a childhood, right? And there's foundational pieces of how you think, and there's a lot of things that you learn from growing up. You seem to have, like, skipped the hard part and going, and you had a good path. So I'm curious, what did your childhood look like?
It's funny you said that. I actually, law school was on a whim, and I wanted to be a professional athlete. Wasn't good enough. Never could see myself doing anything. I jumped from job to job to job to job in high school. Like, I probably had 7 or 8 jobs in high school. I did a lot of interning. And my dad was a doctor. My mom was a teacher. It was, what are you going to do for the next 40 years? Pick something. And to me, that sounds horrible. Nothing sounded like anything I want to do for the next 40 years. And so I went to undergrad and college. And after my freshman year, I was going to drop out. And I went home, not because I didn't have a ton of fun, because I did. I was at the University of Arizona, and I got good grades and partied and had a great time. But I'm like, I did this in high school. I partied a lot in high school. I had a fake ID in high school. Shh, don't tell my parents, even though they probably knew.
Don't tell your girls. Don't tell your daughters. That's what's important. They shouldn't know.
I know. They probably have one. Oh, my oldest probably does too. She's in college. But, I was just kind of like, this is just the same. I mean, this is just high school again. Like, what the hell am I doing? And I wanted to make some money. I was very hungry to make money. And so I was going to drop out and get a job because I was very successful in sales in the summer and I made good money. I'm like, I can go make probably 6 figures right now. What am I wasting my time in college? And my dad implored me, he said, don't drop out. So I remember sitting there going, okay, what can I do? And I was thinking about it. And I was like, well, what if I graduate early? What if I just buckle down and crunch and get this thing over with? And so I did. So I graduated undergrad in 3 years and I was graduating. And unfortunately at the time, I was like, what am I going to do now? Because yeah, I can go do sales now, but now it's like I'm a little bit older. It's 2 more years of maturity. Now I'm 21, not 19. Like things are a little bit different in my eyes. I'm already able to go out and do these things. And I was like, okay, my dad was like, well, if you aren't going to go to school, you're going to pay for yourself, because my dad covered my undergrad. And I was like, uh-oh, okay. So I started to look at what was available. And I remember the Marines were offering $10,000 to enlist. And this was post 9/11, this was 2003, 2004-ish. And I just remember okay, I could probably go get 10 grand from the Marines, which for me at that time was a ton of money, and come out and have maybe I can take that and move on to something else and we'll see where it goes. And I applied to law school at the same time thinking I'll be a sports agent, because one of my mentors was in that world and said, Jeff, if you go get your law degree, you can come work for me and be a sports agent, which would allow me to stay connected to sports. And I didn't think I was going to get into law school because I rushed and took the LSAT on the very last day with zero preparation and got not a very good score. And I was 21, which is not traditionally where law school likes to admit. They like older, even a few years post-college, because of the style of how it's competitive and more mature. And it's just not, they don't want to funnel in immature children. So I applied to 10 law schools and enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I had an enlistment date and I had my job as special police. And when I graduated, I was going to pick one of these routes, but I told the Marines, if I get into law school, I'm going to law school. And I got into 2 law schools of the 10 that I applied to, one in Orlando and one in Miami. And decided to go to law school, went to Miami, did very well because I wanted to transfer to a better university here in San Diego, and finished top 10% of my law school and came back to San Diego. And then graduated with a law degree and tried the sports agency thing, had a kid and met my wife in law school. And again, life changes again because I graduated and didn't do it. So I think the point of that is you don't have to have it figured out, right? You just do things. The key difference, I would say, to answer the underlying thing is when you do something, you do it. If I want to put my name on it, I'm going to do it. I'm 100% in or I'm 100% out. Yeah. And it's frustrating because if I'm not into it, I'm 100% out. I'm not even going to give you 80%. I'm giving you 0.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's super. I always wonder how people are raised, because I think I can see that you had the stability. Your parents were both successful, but you can also see the job, the changing. You had an entrepreneurial spirit even back then, but you knew how to learn and you could master anything, and you chose the path that sounded like it was a much better path for you going into entrepreneurship. But the ability to learn.
Never. I never said that word before. That was never a goal for me.
Yeah.
No, really. I mean, to be honest, to that point I said where I couldn't see myself doing any one thing for 40 years, what I figured out I actually love is starting companies, because I get that startup phase in the industry, which is why I jump from industry to industry, because the same industry forever would bore me. Once I figured out that stuff, I want to start and learn. I like to learn things, but I don't like to be in a classroom, right? And I don't like to draw in boxes. So it's kind of, I turned what was my perceived limiting attributes in high school and early. I mean, I'll never forget my sophomore year. I was getting very good grades because I figured out how to navigate school pretty easily. I was getting in a lot of trouble, and my school guidance counselor called my mom in, and we were talking about what are we going to do with him. He gets good grades, but he's a troublemaker. And she kind of made this comment, which is, your son's either going to be a millionaire or in jail, so he needs to figure this out. And that kind of woke me up a little bit. I don't want to go down a bad path because I'm bored and I have this attitude about me, which I needed to get rid of and mature. And so it took time. I got there. And that's what I'm saying. You got to figure out, to your point of entrepreneurship is glorified. You need to unglorify it. It's a lot of hard work. I mean, I won't lie to you. Last night I had some business things to do, and then I had some East Coast things to do. And I'm operating today on 3.5 hours of sleep. And not for any, listen, that's not because anyone, I do that all the time. That's part of it. I work 7 days a week. Some days I don't even realize when my last day off was, where I didn't do anything, because when you start your own company, it's a child. You are responsible for it 24/7. So if you don't love it, if you are not oh my gosh, this is really what I want to be doing, and I'm willing to give up everything for it, you really shouldn't, because unfortunately you're going to compete with someone who is willing to do that. And effort beats talent every single day. So if I work 20 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, and you are twice the capability of me, but you work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, well, that's 40 hours, right? To my 120 hours, guess what? You could be twice as good as me and I'm still going to beat you. So
that's how I built my career. I outworked everyone. I was a worker. I never gave up. And then the hard stuff came. I said, give me more. I'll figure it out. And I believe in that.
Loved it.
Yeah.
I loved
it. I loved it. And I really did. And I also didn't start things I didn't finish. And that's a big rule in my house. My daughter plays college soccer, and I used to tell her all the time, she's very naturally talented, but I would say there's going to be kids that are going to pass you if you don't put in the work, because talent will eventually, right? It doesn't outpace hard work. And eventually they're going to run. And I see it. I saw kids that were super talented that went away. And then I saw kids that were just mediocre that, played D1, and it's just like, okay, they got it. And so I see that also in business though. I see people that, on paper maybe look better than I am, but when you get on that field, it's it. I'm going to outrun anyone. And I love that. Right. I love that about you.
I think it's not just, I think that there's two points there, right? The first one we'll start with the latter, of what you just said. If someone's more, I'm 5'9" average height, right? I'm average intelligence. So there's a lot of people with more aptitude, more athletic ability. But my job, if they have those things, is to make them use it, right? Not to be the victim and go, well, I'm playing basketball against someone who's 6'5" and I'm 5'9", so I have no chance. No. You're going to have to use those extra inches. You're going to have to show me that you're bigger, stronger, and faster than me, and more skilled. And when you do that, you win. But my job is to make it as hard on you as possible and force you to use that extra that you have that I don't. And are you willing to do that? Because normally you don't have to. So you're not as trained in digging into that deep that I am, because I had to, right? So for anyone out there, when you're competing, your job is to make those who are going to beat you actually beat you, and don't quit just because you think that they're better than you. And that's where a lot of people in sports and life, they just stop because like, oh, I don't have that intelligence, or I don't have those looks, or I don't have that money, or I don't have that capability. Okay, great. Well, make that person use that extra that they apparently have and show you why they have it. And if you come second, third, fourth, fine. But at least you can say, hey, I gave it my best and I forced them to beat me. I didn't beat myself.
Yeah. And you got better in the same, right? You get better too when you compete against people who are better. I always think there's always upside to everything. And I always love to dive into people's life, because I always think people, I'm always interested in where people came from and how you learned. I have always just been a person that's just compete, work hard, do the job no one wants to do, learn the skill that no one wants to learn. I grew up most of my life thinking I'm bad at math. And I became excellent at business finance because it's interesting to me, and I learned it because I had to. And so I love that. One thing that oh, sure. Of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch, I want to make sure we clarify one other point that we just talked about, which that was the other part I wanted to say was, we always hear, oh, you got to love what you do. And I want to make sure I clarify that you don't have to love 100% of what you do. I didn't love payroll and HR. I didn't love digital marketing, right? I don't have to love that. What I loved is starting the company and dealing with the nuance of a startup. I love startups.
Yeah.
What we do, I don't have to love, but I love the journey. I love the problem solving. I love the implementation of SOPs. You got to say, okay, I love the field. Okay, what do I love inside of the field? And then put your energy, focus, and effort on that, and you will be extremely successful. So you might be like, well, I hate, I'm doing a job in an industry I hate. But do you like the work you're doing? Like if you're a marketer and you're working for an industry that maybe isn't exciting, do you like the marketing aspect? Then fall in love with that and prove why you're going to be the best marketer in that space, and fall in love with the craft, not the industry. Or if it's alternative, fall in love with a different industry or craft. But you don't have to love everything. And we hear, oh, you got to love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. I mean, that's kind of true, but I love my kids, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So work is a prerequisite. There's a lot of days that it's hard. There's a lot of days you're like, oh gosh, like, what did I do? But I love my children more than anything. So I'm willing to put in the hard. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to, and that's the thing. Am I willing to wake up at 2 a.m.? I mean, my kids are older now, 19 and 13, but when they were little babies, would I wake up at 2 a.m. if they needed something? Of course. Would I stop and drop everything? Of course. Well, guess what? Your business and your career is the same. And you got to be willing to do it. And of course, if it's between my kid and my business, my kid wins. But a lot of days it's not between them. It's just between my business and my I don't want to's. And when you can finally develop the I don't have to want to do something, I don't have to feel like it to do something, I don't need motivation. Motivation is a stupid word. It's a crutch. It's a word that people use as a justification. I'm not motivated. I need to find motivation. No, stop that. You don't need that. Most of the people who win, they win because they do it when they're not motivated. It's easy to do something when you want to. It's hard to do it when you don't. And when you develop the muscle and you develop the internal character of someone who, I don't care that I don't feel like it. I work out every day. Today, I'm on 3 hours of sleep. I'm going to work out today. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. I don't want to brush my teeth, but I'm going to. I don't want to shower, but I'm going to. So I don't want to get dressed, but I'm going to. We do these things that you don't think about, those last three. So make the things you want those same ways. I don't want to learn AI today. Well, I'm going to. I don't want to read 10 pages. I'm going to. I don't want to send emails. I'm going to. Make the phone calls. All the stuff. Do it anyway. And watch where you go, because most people won't. So it's actually not so hard to elevate to that top tier in your space, because the average aren't going to do these things.
So true. I know. It's really true. And I tell my daughter that all the time. Because there is a culture of everything has to feel good. You always need to feel good. Being uncomfortable is not the right. If you're uncomfortable, something needs to shift. And I've told my daughter 8 out of 10 things I do are things I don't necessarily want to do, but I just do them. People think you show up to work out. No, she loves working out. No, it's part of what I know I need to do to keep my body healthy, right? I eat well because of this. So I agree with that. And I think in entrepreneurship, it's very much like that. People are searching for these silver bullet ideas of this is what I'm passionate about. And sometimes people get lucky and they hit both. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs get burnt out before they get lucky, and they don't realize that part of it is just seeing that their idea come to life. And that doesn't mean it's always smooth sailing. So,
right. And I think you said it, it's unfortunately this situation that we're in where comfort seems to, I want work-life balance. I want comfort. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with those things, but that's what you want. I want success. That's what I want. So both of them have a cost. Which one do you want more? Do you want to be successful more? Or do you want to be comfortable more? Do you want a better work-life balance, or do you want to be more, I'm speaking simply and solely in entrepreneurship.
Right.
Do you want work-life balance, or do you want to build a very big company? That's a choice. You can't have both. I can't jump in the lake and be dry at the same time. So do I want to swim or do I want to be dry?
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. You got to decide what's more important to you. If work-life balance is more important to you, then win in that. Go have the best work-life balance ever. Go work the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. If that's what you want, I support you. But don't get upset that you're not maybe making as much money or building as big of a company because you made that choice. Just like I don't get to be upset that I don't get to work 4 hours a week because I made this choice. Right. So you got to remember, people want to jump in the lake and be dry at the same time. And it's just not realistic. So you've got to decide, okay, which one do I want more? And at this point in my life, I've been grinding a long time. Eventually I'll get to the point where I want to reduce how much effort I'm putting into my day-to-day of business, but I'm 41. I got plenty of energy and
still so young. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Listen, I got plenty of energy, so I'm still running, but eventually I'm going to stop and be like, okay, maybe a little work-life balance should be more in my ecosystem, in which case I won't be on a show talking about big companies I'm growing. I'll be talking about other people who are doing it that I'm maybe mentoring or investing in or supporting in a different way. But if you're sitting there going, well, I really want to build a big company and I want to make millions of dollars, but I don't want to work 120 hours a week and I don't want to. Well, that's what's required a lot of times in those things. So you've got to make the choice, and that's a personal thing. And so if you're feeling like, well, I need to feel comfortable and I need to not feel discomfort, I have to feel good and it's more about my emotions, well, that's okay. I don't judge anybody. It's personal. But you got to understand that what comes with that, there's a cost for it. There's a cost to have that life experience that you want, and there's a cost to have this life experience. And I'd rather have this life experience with this cost, and you may want that one. And that's why there's, 8 billion people, and we all play the game our own way. There's no right or wrong. It's what's good for you.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that, I think that's a big piece of it. I love that there's such an entrepreneurial spirit. I love it that it's so easy to start a business, but I also, as a person who goes into underperforming businesses and I see what it looks like when you don't have some of that framework in place, and it's just, and it goes off the rails. So I also love the concept of, building it the right way, surrounding yourself with people that can plug into your business and help enable your business. And knowing when maybe it's not your friends anymore, maybe it's actually an operator, maybe it's actually a finance person, and all of these things. And I feel like that's the challenge with entrepreneurship. It's you can pop up a Shopify store tomorrow. It's so easy to start something, but it's the finishing and the doing it well, and not that's the part that people need more. I don't know. I think they need more staying power, and also they need more support, and they need to know when to get that support. And it seems like for you, one of the things I was really interested in was your vertical integration, because you don't see that very often. I came from a brand where we were actually it was in Brazil. So, and we had our own manufacturer. And the reason we started internalizing these things was because when we were partnering, it would create a lot of friction in our business. So we decided to create more of that vertical integration. For you, was that just your normal problem solving? I'm going to solve this problem, and it just makes more sense for me to do it myself. Like, tell me about that, because I think a lot of people listening will, it's an interesting part of your journey that I think is important to kind of explore a little bit.
Well, I think it's, if I can solve I want to solve the problem. So if there's a third-party company or vendor or supplier that solves my problem in a way that works, I don't need to solve it myself.
Right.
If there isn't, then I need to solve it myself. And as a serial entrepreneur, I'm, some of my friends would say, acquire, don't start. Much easier. Don't disagree. I'm a startup guy. So I'm going to probably start it versus acquire. But I do acquisitions too. It's just a lot of times it's easier for me to just go start a company because I know how to do it. And that's that's living in my experience and brilliance of what I'm good at. But the whole idea here is, what are your repeatable business problems? What are standing in the way of your main thing winning, whatever that is, right? And so if you're a real estate broker, and part of the process is you need to do, an inspection on the home and a home warranty, and you got to do a credit app, and you got to do all these components. Well, if you have good partners or vendors or whatever, and you don't need to do any of this, great. You have a smooth business. Is it seamless? Great. Are you competitive? Awesome. Well, if you're like, gosh, every time I try to get these home inspections, I can never get someone on time. It slows down my deals. I'm losing business because of it. They're very expensive. Well, then take a look internally and say, okay, this is required on every deal I do. Therefore, I'm going to outsource it to somebody. And if they're not doing it to the standard of my brand and my company, then you need to either acquire one or start one to solve that problem, because that's part of your business. You just didn't realize it. That's a component. Like for me at Everbowl, construction is a part of my business. So I started a construction company to solve my repeatable problem, because every box I open, every Everbowl I open requires this component. And I didn't like the standard with which I could get it. It wasn't to my level or what I wanted for my brand. Same thing with my import company and the food manufacturing. I didn't like the cost. I didn't like the time delays. I didn't like the experience. So I needed to bring that in-house, because now I control my own thing. I mean, winning is about controlling the controllables, right? So these are controllable once I own them. They're not when I don't. And I can't look at my customer when you walk into Everbowl and Santee and say, sorry, I don't have acai because my vendor ran out. Well, okay, I can do that, but then it's a matter of when, not if, you go somewhere else, and when, not if, I lose clients, and when, not if, I'm out of business. And I'm sitting here going, well, my vendor. Well, I'm not going to lose because my vendor, right? So I'm going to go get it. I'm going to make sure I have product for you at an affordable price during this craziness of the last handful of years. And therefore, you're going to get product when you come to Everbowl, because I'm here to provide you the Everbowl experience that I want you to have. I want product consistency, product quality, product price, all the time, every time, on demand. That's my standard. If I could get that somewhere else, I wouldn't have started it. But I needed it, so I started it. Now I have it, and guess what? That's no longer my problem. I have new ones, right? I got to import the product. I got to figure out storage. I got a supply chain. I got to get I got other issues now, new problems. And that's fine, because now I get to continue to go through my problem solving exercise. But the whole idea of vertical integration is removing the excuses from your business so you can provide the experience, product, or solution that you started this business for, whatever that is. If you have a reason you can't do that and you're not controlling it, if the reason is because you internally are making mistakes, great, you can fix those. But if it's because you're relying on a third-party company like my company to do something, you don't control my company. You pay me a fee and I do service, but if I don't do it, you're screwed. Well, like I said, I'm accountable. I'm not going to let somebody else dictate the success of my company. So unless you're so world-class at it, like I don't need to, we all need cell phones in my company. I don't need to create a cell phone company. Apple does a great job Android does a great job. Verizon and T-Mobile do a great job. I don't need to start a cell phone carrier. I don't need to build computers. Macs are great.
Right.
So those are problems that I need because we all need it, but they solved it. I have zero issue with the quality and consistency of my ability to use the technologies, Zoom or StreamYard, or pick your stuff, right?
Right.
But if there wasn't one, then I have a choice. Or if it was a bad one, then I have a choice. Do I let the bad one dictate my outcome, or do I solve the problem? And
right.
Again, it's going back to that whole thing. This is why it shouldn't be glorified. It's hard work because it's a lot of problems. It's hiking Mount Everest. It's climbing Mount Everest. And guess what? It's the hardest when you're out of air at the top. The last 500 feet is the hardest. And most people don't get there. They quit before because it's very hard. It's never ending. So if you don't love it, you're going to lose. And you're going to lose because you're going to run into someone who does love it.
Yeah. It must have been super appealing to your franchises as well, because now you've reduced risk for them as well by owning more of the supply chain. And you have over 400 franchise partner units. I don't know.
Yes. Units.
Okay. So tell me how was that? Because that's like you obviously you have process, you have repeatable systems and all that mitigate the fact that your brand stays. But how was that letting go and then having empowering other owners to own these Everbowls? I'm just curious. How was that for you?
It was hard.
Yeah.
I was never going to franchise till after COVID, we started to franchise. So I had 28 of my own. We were all corporate. Franchising is hard because, like you said, it also changes the customer. When I was owning and operating all the stores and we didn't franchise, you at Santee was my customer. Everything I did was for you. The second I started to franchise, my customer changes to the franchisee and you become their customer. So I go from an operations company to a support company, which is a very different company with a very different specific task. I am operating stores versus I'm supporting franchisees who operate stores. So I have to empower them and enable them to do the same job that I would have done, but they're not me and I don't own them. I can guide them, force them as much as I can. And then secondarily, franchisees are entrepreneurs. And so what you learn really quickly is entrepreneurs are creative in their own way. And so in the absence of systems and process, in the absence of answers, they're going to come up with them. And you may like them, you may learn from them, and you may hate them. And the best example was during the COVID era, where we had franchisees in multiple states, and some states were 100% anti anything COVID, masks, vaccines. You walked in their store with a mask and they wanted to throw you out. And we had some franchisees where if you walked in without a mask, they wanted to throw you out. Now, how does a brand who wants to be Everbowl for everybody navigate that, right? And still provide safety and sanity to the entire world without all the answers? Those are challenges, right? But you have entrepreneurs who grow up in, America is filled with 50 different states and 50 different types of human that grew up with a different background and a different experience and a different worldview. And it's a huge mistake for brands, in my opinion, to take sides. And you're seeing a lot of it over the last 2 years. And my biggest recommendation is stop doing that. If there's 100 people, from 2 people from every state, I want all of their money. I want all of them to be customers. I want all of them. I don't want to segregate these states because they don't see the world how I see it, because I'm not a political brand. I'm Everbowl for everybody. And, Michael Jordan, whose jersey's right behind me, had a famous quote in the 80s and 90s when, he was selling shoes for Nike and they wanted him to get political on an issue. And I think he was a Democrat at the time. And he made a very famous sentence. And he said, Republicans buy shoes too, for him, right? So he wasn't going to alienate the other side for his political views. So my political views, regardless of what they are, don't matter. You're an American or anywhere with money, anybody, you're a human and you want to experience Everbowl. I want you to experience Everbowl, and I want Everbowl to be inviting for you. And my political or religious or whatever views, don't play into it. That doesn't change the bowl. So why do I need to share it? Why do I need to make sure you hear what I have to say? This is not the platform. If I go to a political rally, okay, then I can tell you what I want to tell you. Or a religious place, I can tell you how I feel. But in this context of entrepreneurship and commerce, you see a lot of these brands alienating certain groups or hyper-focused on certain groups, and you're seeing the financial ramifications, whether it's pro or against. Again, I'm not aside because I'm not here to do that, and I never will publicly, but they are. And, good and bad. You have seen brands alienate minorities and lose a ton of money, and you've seen brands hyper-focused on minorities and lose a ton of money. And so my attitude is try to be inclusive as a brand and try to stay out of these debates the best you can, because yes, the world's going to push you to do it, because who doesn't love a good controversy? Who doesn't love to we're in this time period where there's a lot of people who want brands to alienate themselves or pick a side, and they want to only be with their own. And great. I want to be for both sides. I want to be Switzerland. I want you.
Yeah.
And so I encourage, especially today, separate your personal from your professional. If you're a brand that isn't you, obviously if you're an influencer and it's all about you, then you need to live to that. Speak your truth.
Right.
Everbowl's not Jeff Fenster. Everbowl is going to live beyond me. I could sell the company tomorrow and never be a part of it as an individual, inclusive individual contributor. So my views don't matter for Everbowl. Everbowl has its own brand identity. It's its own thing. We stand for what we stand for, right? Health and wellness, affordable, filling, delicious, and accessible, better for you products. Nothing in there ties into your financial or religious views.
Yeah, there's no party line to that, right? Everyone, I agree with you. And I feel like the best compliment I've ever received is they didn't know where I stood. And I said, that's the best, because that means that it's not politically or otherwise, people want to work with people. And so I agree with you. I think being as inclusive as possible and recognizing that the pendulum swings, it's going to continue to swing. You don't want to be on one side or the other. You just need to be right in the middle and just being loving all and recognizing what you're really trying to accomplish,
Or picking your lines because it matches your brand. Like an example, death is murder plastic, right? So they are picking a side.
Yeah.
And they're going to attract people who are anti-plastic, or, Tesla is electric vehicles, right? And so if you are anti-electric vehicles, you're not going to get with Tesla, but that's what their brand is about. I'm talking about Everbowl is for everybody. Shoes are for everybody, right? So you can pick a side as a brand, and that's okay. I just am seeing a lot of brands and entrepreneurs making a mistake that feel like they have to pick sides on every issue right now, and it's hurting or curtailing their entire potential to make money. And I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless it is your brand. Unless it is your brand.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a quick question for you on making decisions, because this is something I see with a lot of businesses. It's either they're paralyzed by decisions, indecision. I go into brands that are underperforming, and it's very quick for me to say, I think you should do this. And they're like, oh, we know, but we just haven't. Tell me about your decision-making model. How do you think about making decisions in your business?
Immediately and decisively.
Okay.
A bad plan is better than no plan, and a decision made today is better than no decision made today. So I might make the decision not to decide today, but that's a decision in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
I love that.
I'm never going to be the guy who's just hemming and hawing. Okay, I'm not deciding today. I'm going to decide tomorrow. That's the decision. Now I have a deadline for tomorrow to make this decision. And so I have a clock to get the information I need. And then tomorrow I make the next decision. And that is, we're going left or right. And then once we make it, we keep making it. But I'm always willing to pivot. I'm always willing to be change ready and adapt. So we may say we're, 2018, 19, I would have told you, I am never franchising this business ever. Guess what? We franchise. So I think it's crazy that people can't change their minds with the introduction of new information. If you tell me that I've been doing something wrong or I should do something else and you can prove it to me with data, I'm going to do the other thing. So you remember, for those our age and older, smoking used to not be bad for you.
Oh, I know. Yep.
Doctors and surgeons stood before Congress in the 70s and said, it isn't bad for you, because the data didn't show it was, or it did, and they were hiding it. Either way, eventually, we now know smoking's bad for you. So you've got to be willing to adapt and say, well, no, smoking's not bad for you because I thought that in the 70s and 80s. Well, there's new information today. So, or I became smarter, or the company changed, or the climate and macro environment changed. I couldn't travel after COVID as well. And we had so much franchise requests around the country, and we were set up to franchise. And I had mentors and investors and private equity groups involved that said, Jeff, this business should be franchised. Look at the system you've created and what you have to offer. It's a world-class franchise solution for people looking to scale a business in your health and wellness space. Okay, well, I need to look at that seriously. But maybe in 2018, all those factors weren't there yet. Maybe I didn't have the process set up. Maybe the systems weren't there. Maybe the climate wasn't right. Maybe the brand wasn't positioned. So as things navigated, it became the better time to accomplish or do this. It's like, I don't drive till you're 16 because you don't have the maturity and age and whatever they think. So at 14, I'm never going to drive. Okay. When you turn 16, maybe you will. Right. So
right.
Just the way things go. And so I think it's about immediate decisive action. Stop. Always remember, bad plan is better than no plan. And if I fall out of a boat in the middle of the ocean, I'm going to pick a direction and swim. I hope it's the right.
I love that. I love that. Jeff Bezos had I saw a podcast, and he's one of the things he said was there's one-way decisions and two-way decisions, and one-way decisions are hard to change and two-way decisions aren't. So make more two-way decisions than one-way decisions. And that was that was a great thing for my clients, because I was like, this is a two-way decision. We can reverse it if it doesn't work. This is not like, going to change. It's not like you're bringing in a partner or whatever. So I think that's also just understanding the level of what the decision, how it's going to impact your business. I think moving and making decisions, the businesses I've been in that have been the most successful, we've had a leader and a founder that was decisive, and obviously did their research, but they weren't afraid to make the decisions and move the business forward.
You can't lead if you are. So you got to pass that responsibility to someone who isn't afraid to make decisions. If you're apprehensive and not a good decision maker, then guess what? It's okay to be the founder of a company and not be the CEO.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You can be the founder of the company and be the product dev individual, or the salesperson, or the marketer, right?
Yeah.
You can hire somebody like me who will come in. I mean, not me, Jeff, but someone who isn't afraid to and wants to, and empower them to do it. I mean, I'm going to replace me with a better CEO eventually, soon, right? When I'm no longer the best person to do the job, it's time to put someone better in.
Big shoes to fill.
I mean, hopefully not, right? I want to be, there are way better CEOs than me. I want to bring them in. I mean, that's how you build your company. I want to be the worst player on my team.
Yeah.
If I am, I know we're going to win.
You mean operator to me. Operator CEO. There's CEO visionary. There's CEO visionary, and then CEO operator. And you seem to have both, right? You have the visionary, but you also have that operator muscle.
I really don't. I just talk the talk. I have a great team.
Okay, that's amazing. That's great.
I can do it with Scotch tape and grit for a while, and then realize it's time to bring in someone to professionalize that operation side, because I'm not an operator. I am not good at all those things. I'm good at ideating and figuring it out and realizing we need them, and then I'm good at bringing someone in to professionalize it. But I am. You're like, really? That's what I got. But
that's a muscle. Just being able to recognize and appreciate an operator is a muscle as well. And a lot of visionaries, they don't understand or appreciate the importance. And most businesses that I go in, they're missing usually an operator, because the visionary is trying to be both, and they don't really understand what the difference is. So I think that's something that's more normalized than it used to be. But so tell me about what you're doing now, because obviously you're working with entrepreneurs. Like, I'd love to just share how, people can work with you, and what's your ideal, client, or what lights you up now? Obviously you have a lot of businesses, a lot of things going on, but what's lighting you up now?
I mean, all of it. I hate to, which kid do you love the most? I love them all. And different days for different things. I mean, I really enjoy my show, where I get to interview successful individuals in life and reverse engineer what makes them successful in that success formula. I really enjoy speaking on stages and getting to talk to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners and people who are just trying to figure out how to be successful and share what I've learned over the years. I love my businesses. I love working and investing in companies and entrepreneurs who are looking to grow and help them figure out how to be successful, because I do believe that success is available for everybody. I'm an ordinary guy, and I've trained myself on figuring out what extra stuff to do to get extraordinary results. And if I can do it, everybody can. And I want to live in a world where everybody is winning, because if everybody had more disposable income, they would do more good for the world. If everybody was making more money, they would create more products and businesses that you wouldn't go out of business, and it would just be a better environment. And I don't have so what lights me up? Definitely working with entrepreneurs, helping where I can, fortunately I'm in a financial position where it's less about making money and more about how I spend my time. And so it's more rewarding when you help people who just need that little bit of course correction. I needed it when I was at a certain stage in my career, and I had great people around me. I mean, I've always had coaches and mentors, and advisors and investors, right? So you have the collection of them all, and they all serve a purpose, right? And how you use those, I think, dictate your success. I mean, I just saw a thing that LeBron James in basketball, I'm a sports guy, but LeBron James he's 41 years old, and he's made $1 billion, and he's a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest players ever. And he spends $1.5 million today on fitness and wellness coaching and advisors every year, just to make sure he stays in top shape. You don't think he knows how? Of course he does, but the coaches are there to tweak and give him the next best and be focused on that element. So he's not, because you can't do everything. So I can't just focus on my accounting and my marketing. There's not enough hours in the day. So how can I get help in scale, in marketing, in accounting, and all these different elements? And so if you don't have those resources, I recommend you devote some time to find them. You need a mentor, somebody that you can call. You need advisors. You probably should have a coach of some capacity who's either coaching your mental approach or your specific niche. Fitness coach, if you're struggling with your health and wellness, you should probably go get a physical trainer if you can't do it on your own or you aren't getting those great results. A chef, if you're bad with your diet and just can't spend the time or order out to one of these things, like optimize your life and realize it takes a village to raise a kid and it takes a village to raise an adult. So,
well, okay. So my final question is a trick one. Or do you see your daughters following in your footsteps? Do you see any like similarities or like, do they have, my daughter thinks she has to figure it out now. She's a freshman in college. She's like, I need to it's okay, but she really wants to figure it out. But how your daughter that's in college or like, are you seeing any entrepreneurial, I don't know.
No, I hope
totally
not.
Different. No, I hope
no. I mean, I won't lie to you. I don't wish this. I don't think this is the right life for. I don't think most people should be a doctor. I don't think most people should be a teacher. I don't think most people should be a nurse. I don't think most people should be an accountant. I don't think most people should be an entrepreneur. I don't think most people should be an electrician. You've got to have my daughter's very good at a lot of things. The idea of straight out, unrelenting problem solving, where all you're looking for is the next problem, because that's my job. It's not to relish the good. It's always to find the next thing and fix it before we hit it. I don't see that lighting her up. Maybe it will. Maybe she'll change. I mean, I'd have to talk to somebody who knew me back when I was that age to tell you if I had those attributes. I also would rather her not work as many hours and travel as much as I do when she's later in life, because it is hard, especially, as we get more aware of, like you were saying, but I don't see, short answer is no. And my youngest daughter, no chance.
No, but you're giving them an amazing, by being that person, I'm sure that is setting a tone for other things that they aspire to in life, because it's great what you've created. And what I think about my life, I just wanted to create a better life for my daughter and give her a path to whatever she wants to be. I really don't care what, as long as she's happy.
Yeah. I think the lesson is, whatever you do it to the best of your ability and sign your name at the end of your work, right? So if you're going to be a veterinarian, be the damn best veterinarian you could possibly be. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, be the best entrepreneur you could be. If you're going to be a doctor, be the best doctor. If you're going to be a teacher, lean into that. I mean, whatever you do, are you doing it as to the best of your ability and like you're going to be a Hall of Famer in that industry? If the answer is yes, that's what I'm trying to teach my daughters. And that's what I do in my craft, or try to, right? Are there a lot of people better than me? Absolutely. That's okay. I'm not competing with them. I'm competing with me yesterday. And am I a little better today? Hopefully. And I'm going to keep getting better, and we'll see how far up the mountain I can get when I'm done. But that's what I'm teaching them. And if they choose entrepreneurship, great. I don't think that's what they're going to choose. But hey,
the world's changing so quickly.
I didn't know what the word meant when I was 19. I never heard the word before. So
yeah. And you did get 2 girls. So, I mean, you got the best. I mean, I couldn't imagine. My husband has kids, which I love them, but they're older. One of them's actually an attorney as well. And so I've had a taste of all of it, but having a daughter is very special. So, I am so grateful to have you on the show. I'll be following you and your journey. And I'm a huge fan, and you need to bring more Everbowls to Florida. There are only 2.
We're opening another one in January.
Okay, amazing. We need them here. We need them here.
More in South Florida. We're in Florida.
Okay. I live in St. Augustine, so Jacksonville.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be heading there hopefully middle of 25.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be looking for it. I'll be singing your praises. So
I'll send you a message.
Yes, I would love it. I will be at the grand opening. I'll bring my daughter. I'll bring 10 of her friends. We'll fill the place up. So thank you so much, Jeff. You're an inspiration to me, and I'm really grateful for all of your knowledge and everything you shared today. Thank you.
You're welcome.